What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart and the XRP price chart. We're going to look at a couple of different indicators. I want to show you some interesting things I see over here on Bitcoin, reiterating the things that I said last week in my video, piggybacking off of what I had said in the previous video 2 weeks prior. In that after Bitcoin's short squeeze, the price has fallen back down to $27,000, and it has been able to maintain that price throughout the weekend as we head into the new week. I've posted my ideas on how I think price action could play out here in typical ABC corrective format. So far, we have worked down to that $27,000 price level, just waiting to see if the prices can bounce out of here and head into a retracement, before eventually heading down to the 24,000s and working price out here for some time, likely through most of the summer, as the bears celebrate victory, thinking they have stripped the bulls of their optimism and dished them out a blow of defeat, only for prices to eventually later this year be able to work their way back up again. But I do find this to be likely. It has confluence with other things I've been looking at, like with the XRP price chart and a Wyckoff accumulation still having to drift lower into those 30s again before things can get exciting in this market. It's nothing new. We've been talking about that for quite some time. Whether this thing has to go back to the top of the range or not, up for debate, but clearly the momentum has completely died off of there, as we had suspected that it had back here when it was still 58 cents. But should we have a moment in time that has some drifting to do? Hey, that has confluence with us for Bitcoin to settle as well. I get it. That's not like the thing everybody wants to hear. We want to hear that we're going up right away. But this has been kind of my thesis, that there would just be kind of a period still here in 2023 where things would not be super exciting. We would get an exciting phase this year, but just not quite yet. One thing that I'll show you that kind of has some validity to this argument here, that we have to work down into these prices and just kind of work out the 24s, 25s, and 26s for maybe even a couple of months, is due to the fixed range volume profile. Essentially, what we can do is we can see where there's inefficiencies in the market, where not a lot of Bitcoin has been traded, or where a lot of Bitcoin has been traded. A lot of times people will find these areas to look for supports, look for the prices to bounce. I find it more useful to look for areas where there are gaps in trading volume. But here's what we'll do. We'll take these two dates here. We'll start over here on February 3rd, 2017, go all the way here till February 26th of 2023, and look at where Bitcoin has been traded the most during that time. So we're starting over here, our start date right here in February of 2017. Our end date of monitoring this volume profile of where these Bitcoins have been traded ends over here in February 2023. So we're not including any of this data in here of where these Bitcoins have been traded in our volume profile. And we can see where the most Bitcoins have swapped hands. Now, this is measuring actual Bitcoins. It's not measuring how many dollars worth of Bitcoins, but just the total number of actual Bitcoins that traded hands. And what we can see in here is how many Bitcoins were traded. And then there's like kind of this gap where not very many were traded. Then we have a ton of them that were traded in here. Then a little bit less in here, but still right along the lines with what we have up here. Then just massive amounts in here, right? This is 2018. This is just where everything is going on. Here's 2019 and 2020. Everything's going on. Tons of Bitcoin trading in there because we were in that range for so long. But many times what we'll see is we'll see the market go back to these areas and kind of work them out to rebuild a support region in that area. And so what we clearly see in here is just there's a gap here. There's not many Bitcoins traded in this zone. And what we'll typically see is in areas where there's not a whole lot of Bitcoin trading in one zone, that we can kind of cut through these price areas like butter, and that we kind of historically do that a lot. And that you can see each time we've gotten through here, 1, 2, 3, we just go back through it very quickly to each side. There's not a lot of supports and resistances set in there. And so what we have here is we've had this inefficiency in the market right here from a volume perspective, where there's just not a lot of Bitcoin traded. And what we've had happen here in just these last few weeks, as prices have gotten themselves back here into the 27s and 28s, 29s, is that we've seen a little bit of this get filled out. So we'll start back there on the same date, right back in here on February 3rd of 2017. We'll remove that, do the volume profile again, and we'll go all the way to current times right now. And what we can actually see is that some of this has now been filled in. And we've spent some time trading here in the 27s, 28s, 29s, and the 30s. And now we have filled that in. But what we still have here is this gap. We have not come back and filled that gap down in there. which we can close it out down to here and say, oh, that actually makes sense. We still have our gap here that we have not worked out. We have not built supports and resistances here, and this level is still just a knife through butter zone because not many Bitcoins have been traded for $26,000 just in general over the course of the last 2.5 years. There's just not been many Bitcoins traded for 26,000. Each time we get there, it's only a heartbeat, then we're through it. So what would an ABC correction actually end up giving us as well? It actually ended up giving us a ton of trading taking place here in that $26,000 price level, essentially closing all of that out. So just from a volume perspective in the market, and that this happens to be just out of all of this, this is the one little area that just has not had much work done to it. It still makes logical sense. That's the area that still needs to be worked out for a little while in there for Bitcoin. And that does also provide it, closes out that volume gap. And there you go. Now, one other thing I noticed on here too, just for fun, is that if you look up here, where else is there a volume gap in here? Let me get this off the screen here really quick just to kind of clean it up a little bit. But where else is there a little volume gap where there's just not much Bitcoin traded to the very top? And I would say it's like this area right here. If you take a look at that, there was just kind of a plunge that took place in there. Very similar to the low amounts of volume that took place down in here in these 25s. And if you kind of mark that one particular spot, the absolute low of where that's at, I found it to be a little bit interesting on where that particular price level happens to be, because where do you think it could possibly be? Shall we? Let's do it. Right there at the 702 Fibonacci retracement level. So when I was taking a look at all these volume profiles, I kind of just was making logical sense out of this and started playing with the other spots and saying, hey, where else do we have some inefficiencies in the market? The one place happens to be literally the place that we have talked about for over a year. So talk about some confluence there. Otherwise, I know this is not the most favorable thing out there to be talking about. The market kind of pulling back for a couple of months. Doesn't change my bigger perspective view that the market will march higher. This is just how markets work. We would all love for it to be a straight line up forever. But historically, it has never done that. I see all the posts out there on Twitter that say we're going higher using lots of moon math, the engagements, the excitement, the wants, which was the polar opposite of this market just 3.5 months ago, where the bear posts would get all of the likes and retweets, but the market has flipped, right? So a lot of people have jumped back into the market. And of course, I know my ratios, these aren't very high. This is frowned upon, unlike what it was like just 3.5 months ago when people are posting, hey, we're going to 12K, 10,000 likes, right? But of course, during that whole time of June through January, I was posting that I believe the bottom was in. And the altcoin market, it has held. The lows have been in. Ethereum's low, XRP, Litecoin, BNB. The broader market cap set its low back there in June. It's been a great accumulation time point, but now prices have moved back up. We just tend to have corrections along the way, but that's okay. I am positioned in this market off of the lows. I'll still remain positioned within this market, but I'm going to seize more opportunities should this eventually end up coming. Has Confluence, it's what we've talked about for XRP for some time. You could just totally see it that this has waned off, but I expect that prices will continue to shuffle their way back down. And in that time period, I'll just continue adding to my bags, waiting for that big moment in the market where Bitcoin starts to work its way back up again. And hopefully that's when XRP has its moment to shine. What was really funny about all this is just looking at it, expecting that we were at the top of the range. We had a lot of people expecting that the case with the SEC versus Ripple was going to come to a conclusion at sometime there in March. Here we are. We're almost done with April. That still isn't concluded. And really, the chart doesn't tell us it should be, right? If the narrative is going to be that Ripple is going to win, or at least that XRP will be deemed not a security in the secondary market, our chart isn't ready for that type of awesome news. And so it's pretty funny to see that it did not happen in March. And here we are, we're almost at the end of April, and it hasn't happened in April yet either. There's always that old tale of, show me a chart and I'll tell you the news. And well, our chart says it's not quite time for some great news. But you can use your imagination and say, well, if this does end up playing out in here, then that's the last chance. We're done. We've done the whole corrective structure. We've done everything that we've done in previous market cycles with crash, retrace, reaccumulation, exact same spots to the top, to the bottom, and the accumulation schematic in here. That will be our conclusion to this, should we continue to do so. So I'm excited, man. I know short term, people don't like this kind of stuff. I know what's going to come in the market. I've been through this stuff before. This is where people get mad. This is where likely a change in the news narrative ends up happening in here. And this is where we sit for a prolonged period of time with people totally worried that we're going lower. The bears are going to get super loud. People are going to sell, expecting it going lower. And tweets like this that are pointing down will suddenly start getting all the likes again. Just like at the bottom, where if you're posting we're going up, people won't like it. They want to like the stuff that says it's going down because they sold. Then when prices go up, they want to start liking the stuff that says we're going to go up because they got back into the market. This is this just because I can remember how these things work. Just pay attention to it too. If we get the narrative right, or if you see people screaming it over there on Twitter, is that, and it's been quite a while since I've seen it. Typically, when people get wrong-footed, what they will always say is this market is manipulated. It is the cheap cop out. It is the no, you were just wrong. Doesn't mean the market's manipulated. You were just wrong. This is a point in time where I very, very vividly remember people screaming, this is a manipulated market because they got so wrong-footed. And it's just what happens because the pain gets so bad that prices got carried away. If you look at what people were really going for, they were really only going for it to go down that much more, 20%. And instead, prices went the opposite way and went up 100%. Then insert, banking stuff, insert, hey, we're going to $1 million within 90 days. People pile into the market. We get a retracement, then whoop, it pulls back. Suddenly they're upside down again, right? They sell the lows, they buy the highs, they're back down in here. The bears get really loud all over again on Twitter, telling you we're going to go much lower. They will all believe it. I always talk about writing an emotional log to kind of keep everything in check so you can kind of like watch what happens to your own perspective at different price points. And should we get this? Be prepared. All those bears will return. And just like I always do, right? Bull, kind of issuing warnings, looking for a short squeeze. We get the short squeeze pullback. All right, I think we're going to pull back even more. All those bears flip to bull. Now they yell. No, bears are bad. They'll be back, but it's okay. I'll be here. I'll be positive, uplifting, and preparing for this market to continue another leg higher. And I tell you all these things like just from an emotional perspective and what it's like out there, because I think that's really a major important part of it all. We can look at the charts all we want. We can look at all these technicals like we saw from June all the way to January saying, hey, we're forming bottoms here. The voices get so loud in social media and in these circles that we run in that we kind of ignore everything else and just pay attention to that. And I think that's such a critical component of everything we do. A lot of us, we're watching YouTube videos, we're trying to do our research, we're over there on Twitter, we're reading news articles, and then like the narrative in those articles, a narrative and emotional sentiment over there on Twitter, and then YouTube videos, they can flip from being bullish videos to being bearish videos, and we just get completely consumed in it all. And it's just kind of like a wave, right? We ride the emotional wave of what everything is in the market. Prices pulling back, everybody turns bearish. Prices moving up, everybody turns bullish. And it's one of those things I really try to communicate on my channel since the very beginning is just emotions and how they are so impactful on us when it comes to being in this market, because it is the most volatile market in the world. We have huge moves in this market and they happen quickly. And so I share with you my experiences of what it's been like being in this market during different phases, from June through January, really sharing a lot of like my emotional log of what it was like back in November, December of 2018 and moving into January, February, March, April, May, and June of 2019, watching that market really pull out and just kind of sharing exactly what that moment was like. And I'm trying to share with you my experiences of what it was like going through something like this. If this plays out, just giving you kind of a clue of what actually happens is that excitement returns to the market. We retrace, excitement continues in the market, then the market rolls over. And we've seen that happen before, like this exact same thing. But on a bigger scale, right? When we moved back into here, this was still a super exciting moment in the market. And the reason why I say people will get wrong-footed is because, and scream that, manipulation is because these phases, these retraces back to these 702 retracements are typically when the market gets super excited, super euphoric, and doesn't believe there's a chance in the world that the market could pull back. And that is what happened back in here in 2020, is that the market was super euphoric, thinking we couldn't pull back in here. And that's also exactly what happened right here, right back there in May of 2021, is that the market goes back in. The narrative gets very good, very bullish. You got Elon Musk going on Saturday Night Live, and then it rolls over very quickly. And then you realize the thing that we're talking about is really exactly what ended up happening here. But I think it's important to zoom back out on that bigger picture, like we're talking about, right? In that we can get caught up in this moment. This moment lasts a few months. If it lasts through, May, June, and July, to again go back to looking at the bigger picture. And this is my thoughts of the market. This is my thesis of the market, is that we're still heading higher. We know there's an inefficiency in the market right here. There's a volume gap right in here. And at the exact same time, we know that we had a support right here and we had a resistance right in here that lasted for 9 months. And we have not back tested that to build a support on top of it. It just makes so much logical sense to create a base and then shift higher. And so as we go throughout this time period, if we should end up getting it, this is going to be my messaging. And be prepared. The bears will get loud. The bears will scream, we're going lower. That's what they always do. They did it back in here. For those who were not here before Bitcoin broke out into its new all-time high, they were all screaming we were going to the lows again. And like we showed, same exact structure right in here. What were they all screaming? They screamed that was the end for Bitcoin. We'll get through this time period. It'll be a rough patch. But if your mindset is, I have to have this thing go to moon within 1 month, you're just in the wrong market. Many times we could sit in these things for years before we end up going. I'm not saying we're going to sit in here for years, but I learned a lesson a long time ago. And I think a lot of people who got in with laser eyes and diamond hands learned they don't have laser eyes and diamond hands, and learned that the market doesn't just keep going up straight forever, and that we do have pullbacks. We have them along the way. In 2017, even these, man, you just have them, and they're brutal, and they shake people out of the market all the time. And I think we'll have one of those phases here too. But for me, I'm going to be seizing the opportunity. And I just wanted to show you the things that I see. I'm super excited for 2023. I think we have this rough patch, but you can view it as a rough patch, or for all those people who were screaming for $12,000 for Bitcoin, the opportunity may be knocking at your door that you missed. We'll see how things go. Otherwise, just kind of waiting for Bitcoin to start shuffling its way back up to the upside. It was moving pretty quickly at the end of the week last week. Then on Friday, we had capitulative volume. We had strong volume where Bitcoin got down to 27,000 and XRP got down to 44 cents at the exact same time. Those were both numbers we were looking for, and they happened to occur at the same time. And then for the next, 48, 60 hours or so, the prices have just gone flat at this point after really gaining momentum. So optimism to say things could start turning their way around for a little while here pretty soon. I'm just sharing with you my thesis of what's going on. But what does all that say? It says, hey, man, it seems like the next week or two could probably be pretty exciting here in this market. So we'll be keeping our eyes on things like Ethereum to see if it's going to get back above that year-long range to have a higher consolidation level, or if we're heading into deeper Wyckoff over there on Ethereum. And we'll just be watching how this market reacts as it heads back into a retracement, hopefully. Otherwise, it's going to be a busy week for me this week. I am going to Consensus 2023 in Austin, Texas. I will be leaving tomorrow, but I will be here in the morning. I am going to do my absolute best to still continue doing markets in the morning each day while I'm gone. I will bring some equipment with me to try to be able to do those things. I have the full intention of doing it each day. Videos will be spotty. But like I said, we'd start getting back into the swing of things with videos starting this week, as I put one out last Friday. Been working on a lot of stuff on the back end over here. I've been recording tons of videos, just not for the YouTube channel. In the last 2 weeks, I've recorded 18 videos. But yeah, now we're moving back into YouTube. Again, this is the primary content of the channel's YouTube videos. I do know Markets in the Morning is not for everybody, but it's a nice little thing we have going on every morning. We'll continue that. Otherwise, I've got Consensus this week, and then we've got the XRP meetup stuff the following week. Busy week. I also did feel the need to have to post this over here on Twitter just because I know how things go. I posted that I'll be traveling to a few crypto events in the next couple of weeks. If I take a picture with someone, it is not an endorsement. Remember, I have 0 sponsors. I don't promote any projects. I'm not affiliated with any companies or coins, and I'm not compensated by them. I probably will take quite a few pictures with a lot of people. I look forward to doing that. I'm excited to meet a lot of people. I'll probably visit a lot of booths at Consensus. I'll probably see a lot of companies out there. And if there's any pictures taken with me and any of these companies, it's not an endorsement of them. It doesn't mean I'm affiliated with them. It doesn't mean I'm promoting them. I'm just probably not going to deny anybody if they ask to take a picture with me. So just wanted to throw that out there. But in regards to the charts, if all this stuff is true, looks like, hey, man, the next week of this market could be pretty interesting to the upside. So we'll see how that goes as long as the support holds here at $27,000 for Bitcoin. Then we'll start kind of preparing for watching out for the next phase. Otherwise, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Welcome to a new week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.